Hi, this is Chris doing a demo review for Nortical, and let's get right into it. The first round where I saw a mistake was the second round force buy, and I think the main thing about this, or what you just did, you jumped out a window and you didn't check underpass, and you didn't have a teammate holding underpass or anything. In fact, right now you can see the minimap, your teammate is still not holding your underpass, so that's something you should work on as a team. You should always strive to check things for each other. You could have flashed underpass and have your team checked it before you jumped out, or while you're running up, your teammate really should be holding your underpass because someone could swing and shoot you in the head. The second thing is less of a teamwork but more of a personal thing. You peek up here, and granted you've got a scout, but it's still not a one-shot kill, and you can see, and this is a main point of this round, is that you still have full utility, 2 flashes, smoke, HE, and you could have used these flashes to make your approach to T-spawn a little bit safer. You never know what your enemy team could be doing right now. Granted, one of your teammates died on A, but it still could be a default. There could still be one watching B, there could still be one watching the mid flank or whatever. And then, yeah, the second thing, you did check mid, but here's the second thing, is you just run around, all the way to T-spawn, knife out, not really checking the angles. Or you start checking them here, but the important thing to know is that even though they are executing onto the site, at this point they could have, waited in T-spawn. You didn't really have the info while you were pushing, and you definitely could have used your utility more effectively. These 2 flashes, you could have used one to flash yourself at mid, and then used one to flash you into T-spawn maybe, to make sure they aren't holding anything. And then, yeah, the main reason why this is a focal point in this round, not really that your death here is his fault, but you do die with all of your utility, so you need to think about using that a bit more, maybe developing a plan at the start of the round, how you're going to use your util, because you don't want to die with all of that basically just money on you, right? Smoke, HE, 2 flashes, that's $800 just completely gone. So you lost the anti-force buy in the second round, and now it's brought you to this point where your team's decided to force up again, or your team have armor and a pistol. And you can see here that you guys have kind of went for a defaulty setup, and yeah, you do have a bit more pressure on mid, but as soon as that kill comes in, your yellow guy decides not really to put anything more in there, and at this point you're back to default and get out. And I just want to have the idea in your head that if you watch a pro game or a very high level game, even in pugs and stuff, you'll see that if they decide to go for a really low force buy round, not much money, just pistols and armor and stuff, they'll never play it the same way as they would a gun round. They'll never play it, as a default, 2 on this site, 2 on this site, and they'll always try and do something special. One that I see a lot is the stack window works out a lot, especially on full eco rounds. Pushing somewhere together with a single flash, pushing through ramp or palace, or a little bit less commonly B-apps. And the reason for this is that if you do something out of the ordinary, you might be able to catch them off, whereas if you play completely default, then it's a completely normal round. The chances are the same, apart from the fact that you have no way of, you have much more inferior weaponry, so it kind of tilts the scales in their favor. Whereas if you do something crazy, yeah, it could tilt things in their favor even more, or it could even the playing field. It's all about risk and reward, and if you're ever at a disadvantage, be that a man at a disadvantage or the money, equipment disadvantage, you always need to take a risk to try and bring that back into balance. The fourth round, which is a full eco from you guys, starts off in a way that I really like. You all decide to push down mid in this kind of way, and it's what I was just talking about. It's doing something all together as a team, trying to be an effective, just big group, and just trying to get as many shots down range as possible with these low-powered weapons, and trying to just be a nuisance in numbers, essentially. And I did like that up to the point where you guys started walking back in mid, and then, you allow this smoke to let you guys get cut off, and the whole point of, an eco rush round is all being together and just being loud and fast and just a big sledgehammer of a force, right? You don't want to be walking around, because then, you're wasting a lot of time and the enemies could be in certain different positions. You just want to stay all clumped together, all running together, and just trying to take like 5v1s and like 4v1s on the enemy, so that you can kind of just bully them down with all these pistol shots, you know, whether it be in the head or the body. And yeah, it was a good idea, but where you let this strat get away from you was letting this utility split you up, and then not exactly all taking the fights at the same time like this. In this next round, you decide to take your AWP to B, and the one thing that concerns me about this is, I don't know if it was an adjustment maybe because you guys felt like you should have an AWP in apps, maybe you had a read on like some kind of rush or something, but, or not a rush I guess, but you know, a read on a rush or something. But what you'll see in a lot of like high tier teams, and like, you know, like even, you know, going down into like even newer teams, is like they'll all play the same positions every time on a CT side, unless like they have a specific strat they're trying to run, or they want to take a specific amount of map control. And the reason for this is that normally you know, you learn things about your position, and you learn the angles really well, and you learn certain plays you can make, and you know, through the repetitions, which is another really important thing about team players, repetitions and being on the same page and doing the same things over and over, so you can expect newer things, different things, and just, you know, if you're in an official and you're just throwing something that you've never seen before, that can be really bad. So getting the repetitions in and playing a lot, and then knowing all the different things people could do when you're in your certain position really helps you out when you want to play on a team. And that's why, you know, I feel like you guys shouldn't maybe move around in positions as much. Just try and pick one and then, you know, roll with it. Another thing that concerns me about this round is just how quickly you kind of push this T-apps. Like, it's only about 20 seconds into the round. Like, they could be setting up for like a B execute or something. You know, there could be 2 or 3 people in there. There could be a guy watching for this. Which, although you've got an AWP, I would definitely still recommend what we talked about in that second round. Using some utility, because you never know what's going to be on the other end of those halls. Moving on to the next round, the first issue I see is that you are in this really exposed position, and even though your teammate Green here is holding Palace, your teammate Yellow is playing close ramp in such a way that if you get checked, you could get killed without Yellow being able to do much about it, which can be a concern. This kind of come back to bite you guys in the ass, because this guy gets the double entry. You do get that kill, but the second thing that is worrying about this round is just, it's a 3v4, and you keep fighting and fighting and fighting even after your team gets that kill, which will even it up and make for, you know, a semi-solid retake, especially considering that, you know, you have a flash and a little bit of utility. But in spite of that, you keep fighting this, you keep trying to get these kills, you know, you're trying to use your util effectively, which I get, but you have to know when you need to play for the retake. It's a really important thing. Like, even though your 2 teammates died on A, you might want to like try and refrag something. In that position, you're smoked off, you have to really expose yourself on top of that box to get anything done. It is really, really risky, and I think in a situation like that, especially where you've got some utility to spare, you should definitely consider waiting for your teammates, waiting to get that coordinated flash, or the smokes, the mollies, whatever, and just being able to have, I guess, kind of the discipline to know when you're not going to be able to make much more of a difference without the help of your teammates. I think in this round, you initially take the AWP to mid, and then you decide to bring it back to like about the A site and stuff, but I think what I would mainly highlight in this round is kind of the communication with your team and like what you're doing. Again, you have one teammate out in the middle of mid, as you can see on the minimap in the top left, and then, you know, he's just completely on his own while, you know, purple rotates around from jungle to short. I don't know why he'd be window at the start if he wants to play short, and then like you were watching Palace at the same time, which isn't like the most efficient thing to do, like 2 people watching one thing. And then, you know, as a result of this, Yellow's just all on his own trying to make a play, and I don't know if he communicated it to you, but what should be happening there is he should say, I want to make this play at the start of the round, and then you guys should, like, you know, agree or disagree, and then, you know, try and support him or whatever. The fact that he was out mid and no one else was even looking mid says, you know, something needs to be worked on. Maybe, you know, work on that set play, or just a little bit more communication from him or from you saying he needs help, or like how you're going to help him. Things like that is really important to a team structure. And then there's also another thing here where, you know, you watch Khan, there's not a lot of action. You go back to watching Palace, which is a perfectly fine position because your teammate Purple is short and he can watch Connector for you, which makes this a really strong position for you to be in. Really, really good for you to be around window, around jungle. It allows you to pivot on mid or to the A site. It can be really powerful, especially for an AWP to lock down. And you kind of make a mistake here by repositioning to CT, which I don't think was the best decision because you had Purple short, so no one could have flanked your Connector or window if he's doing his job right. And so you're playing around that window jungle area would be really good for you to shut down any kind of A push potential with these 3T players alive. So what I would take away from this is your teamwork with your teammates. You know, giving the example of yellow dying mid and then purple here, maybe not saying that he's got your connector, or maybe you just not realizing, and you guys need to like call out your positions, what you're watching. You know, you can even ask as an AWP, is my connector safe, is my window boost safe, can they window boost, things like that. And then if someone makes a daring play at the start of the round, they want to go for a mid rush or something, you guys should communicate that and then try and support them with flashes over Khan, you know, having someone in connector watching under so he can't get flanked like he did. Just things like that. You'll see set players from high tier teams, they'll have set players and then they'll also have things that they just want to do on the fly, and then, you know, they'll help each other from certain positions and just make sure that that's a success. Just a small note about your positioning in the last round of the half. It's a lot safer to play this angle from down on the box. You get more of an angle into connector, and then also not into connector, into ramp, and then also, yeah, if you didn't look connector at the right time, you didn't have the communication, or maybe you don't have someone connector, that can be really bad for you because they can get a kind of weird angle on you. So I would say, even though it might catch them off sometimes, just play the normal angle behind the box because it's good enough and it'll do a lot for you. It's also a better angle looking into the pit. For your pistol round, your team decides to do a like straight A strat, and there are a couple of issues I have with this, I guess. The first being is that you peek out here with like no flash at all. The second being is that you have one teammate yellow that's just all the way in like underpass right now, where you guys are trying to do a full site take on pistol, which I could see maybe the utility of them being top mid or like waiting in B apps or some kind of flanker, but I think having an underpass just isn't really one of the most effective things you can do. Also, the entry path that you took into the site wasn't really the most efficient. You kind of went past to sandwich, which isn't the best. Really what you should be doing is running around to underpass, checking that, and then flicking with your back to the site, and then flicking 180 and looking at the site. And that's probably the most effective entry path. It's the one you'll see most commonly used by like professional teams because it allows you to get in there and get the info whether they're under or not. And even if you die, that's really good for your team. And then if you kill the guy under, you can, you know, get the info on whoever's site. So that's why it's a really effective entry path. And I think like pretty much all your A rounds you should consider using that rather than, you know, running straight out of ramp and to the sandwich. Another mistake I see in kind of the strats of your team is on this this force round and the second round again. First of all, you guys just don't use any utility apart from this one flash, which blinded you from your team, right? So it's obviously not the best flash, and you kind of want to be using more than one because, you know, it's the same thing. It's the complete opposite of trying to catch them off on the CT side. On the T side, you're trying not to get caught off, or, you know, the anti-force bar, you're trying not to get caught off. And also, what I see here is you guys, you have the better weaponry. You have obviously a plan to go mid, and then you are really tentative. You really get kind of quiet. You don't try and push down mid, which should be your goal. You should be pushing down mid as a unit, you know, pushing towards short, towards cat and short, or towards like connector. That should be your primary goal. You shouldn't be waiting for them to give you picks, especially if you're trying to go in force like this. It's not a default. You're trying to get control as a 4, and so You should be bullying them, really, using, you know, your better weapons as your advantage. You should be bullying them, you should be running at them, you shouldn't be giving them a chance to catch you out, essentially. In this next round, you guys decide to do like a kind of dry A walkout, or, you know, like a semi-execute onto the site. And the really big problem here is that, you know, 3 of your team are holed up here in Tetris. The other one just died top mid on his own, I guess trying to keep some control, and the other one's in Palace, which is okay. But yeah, you've got the 3 of you on the right side of the site, which is not where the bomb goes down. It's not really the site at all. You guys are kind of just holed up here, I guess kind of worried, or, you know, not wanting to run in and die. But the really important thing about this is to get the site, and because you guys took so long trying to just get there in the first place, they already have all of their teammates here ready to do this retake and ready to, you know, fight for the site as soon as your smokes fade. So what you really want to consider is, when you decide you're going to hit a site, when you make that decision, you do it properly and you run towards the site and you try and take kills and you try and take that control. You can't stop in T-ramp. That's one of the worst places you can be, because not only are you not getting to the site, you're also completely exposed to angles from CT and, you know, the stairs peak and things like that. So you want to get to the site, get that bomb down, and get to those post plants as soon as possible so that your smokes don't fade and that they don't have enough time to get rotated in. There's 2 main mistakes in this round where you decide to end B, and the first one is, again, another team mistake, maybe a little bit your fault, but you guys are really cautious about not getting into this site without getting the kills, I guess, and because of that, like, a lot of you fall. Like, you spend a lot of time waiting for a kill and not getting the bomb down, and because of that, you get into a pretty disadvantageous situation where you need to both fight off people and get the bomb down. Luckily, you know, you win those gunfights. Maybe if the CT side were a bit more cautious, it would have went a bit differently. But the second mistake here is that you play this 2v1 a little too aggressively. Ideally, when you have the advantage, like a 2v1 or a 3v1, you don't want to play it too aggressively, because if you do, especially when they have time on their side, you may think you've got the bomb and you've got the time on your side, but no, they're right next to the site and they have 40 seconds, so, you know, it's pretty neutral at that point. Peeking them with this much time left isn't maybe the most smart thing, because they're going to be watching angles and maybe waiting for a bit of a mistake, because they have so much time to, you know, get to the site and defuse the bomb.